Alert. Lucifer, God's right hand man, is currently on the run. He is currently wanted by the Almighty Creator for turning into his left hand man, waging war against him. Okay? This is the first time that anyone has ever known this information, alright? Because I'm the first one that got away from this guy, alright? So I'm going to tell everybody what's going to happen, alright? First of all, I know more stuff than normal people. Second of all, this is a warning in attempt to try to help that Lucifer will be unable to get any more victims. All right. First of all, let me go over everything that I have written on my little article here. First of all, I'm sure people are probably thinking that I'm like joking around with this. Well, this isn't a joke. I'm actually serious. Um, so let me read this whole thing to you. All right. First and foremost, don't worry about what Lucifer looks like. Nobody needs to know what he looks like because first of all, his his identity will is always going to remain unknown because he does the opposite of what God expects him to do. So God expected for Lucifer to show himself to everybody, right? So he's doing the opposite of what God expects. He's not showing himself to anybody except for people that he can put in debt. So that's why nobody's known this whole time that Lucifer's actually down here putting people into debt. All right, so that's what he's doing. He's been down here trying to get a debt against the Creator because he's trying to turn over his debt to the Creator and take a ransom against the Creator. That's why he is the most dangerous person in the world because he will not stop until God has him. Okay, God just needs to get evidence against him, and now I'm releasing the evidence against him. So now let me read this 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 little banner that I have made. It says Lucifer is profiled to be the most dangerous person in all of humanity. Let me go over that line really fast. Lucifer, he is inside of an eternal body. He's not like us. He is unable to die, and he can rule over the universe. So he can rule stuff into the universe for good or for evil. But he's going to have to pay for whatever he rules into the universe if if we watch against it. So that's why whenever he keeps ruling stuff into the universe, people hardly know whatever he's ruling into the universe because if we're against and if we find out that he's ruling all this evil shit into the universe, God, that'll be used as evidence against him, and God will come judge him. So he's been keeping all his evidence really low. Remember, he is an intelligent being, so he knows how to keep. He knows because all he does. It's okay if Lucifer has all sorts of evidence laying around out there, as long as you people will put the evidence against yourself. See, that's the thing. It finally ended here with me, with him putting all this evidence against us, alright? So, he leaves all sorts of evidence out there, but the thing is that he's got people that have turned so much evidence over against themselves that all that evidence that he keeps leaving out there of them, it's not enough evidence to get him turned in. All right, so that's the way Lucifer works. He's trying to leave just a little, just a less amount of evidence that he won't get busted. So he does want to leave little bits of evidence out there of himself because if he leaves evidence of himself out there and you become aware of it, he can use that against you. So that's why he barely, barely, barely wants you to know that he's out there because he'll be able to use it against you if he can trick you. All right. So now the next thing says evidence. All the evidence I've gathered against this guy the evidence suggests that Lucifer used to be God's right-hand man, now turned full evil. Okay? Lucifer is able to rule over anything in the universe anyone does not watch against. Lucifer is known to remain unseen and known to do everything opposite of what God expected. Lucifer is known to target victims that are willing to do anything for him. I didn't. Maybe I'll fix that. I didn't. Willing to. I'll just leave it. Oh well. Willing to do anything for him, and he loves when you owe him endless amounts of debt. So what Lucifer's main goal is to put evidence against you so that God can't get in the middle of what has been set into agreement between you two. So that's Lucifer's number one goal. He is going to make it so that God can't get involved. So the very first thing Lucifer does to his unsuspecting victim is he gets it so that you have evidence against yourself so that God can't come judge the situation. As soon as he gets evidence against you that he knows that God can't come in the middle of everything that is going to happen between you and him, he will put you in endless amounts of debt. So as soon as you put evidence against yourself and he gets you to owe him anything, because that's what he'll do. He will not bargain with you unless you are willing to go into endless amount of debt, which means you're willing to do anything for him. If you're not one of those people that are not willing to do anything for Lucifer, he doesn't have enough evidence against you. He can't use you, all right? So he's only going to use somebody that's stupid enough, first and foremost. So that's why I'm releasing this information, so that none of you are stupid to what he's trying to do. So remember, if anything sounds too good to be true, it's too fucking good to be true. Don't be dumb, all right? So don't be fooled by him, because the only thing Lucifer is going to try to do is make it so that you owe his ass. Remember, if Lucifer ever makes it so that you owe him, you're never going to be able to satisfy how much he wants back out of you, because he is going to be the one who judges how much you owe him. And if you have evidence against yourself, and then God can't get in between of what you do owe and what you don't owe, he'll just keep saying that you owe him more, you owe him more, you owe him more, and then before you know it, you're going to be in his fucking dungeon, all right? So that's what this is all about. When you're willing to do anything for anything, well, that you should have known that it was all a trick. Whenever he sets you up, when you're tricking yourself that you're ready to do anything to get whatever you want, he throws you in a dungeon, all right? You should have known it was a trick. Don't be stupid, all right? So anyway, that's his whole trick. As soon as you owe him, guess what you're going to owe him? You're going to owe him a big-ass trip in his dungeon. And guess what? You're going to stay in his dungeon for as long as he wants you in his goddamn dungeon. And who in the fuck knows what kind of torture devices are in there? You know that he's got torture devices in there, so I'm telling you, that isn't something. So when you dumbasses are sitting there saying that you're willing to do anything, you have got to stop with that stupid fucking attitude, because first of all, you don't have the strength to do anything for somebody, all right? Get it through your fucking head. Stop thinking that you can do anything for somebody, all right? Because if you owe him, you owe him, all right? He ain't fucking joking. He's gonna fucking throw you in a dungeon and torture you. So don't be stupid, man. Don't make it so that God can't come judge what he owes you and what he doesn't owe you, all right? And that's what he's done to billions of people already. He's got them fucked because you people got the evidence against yourself. So now God needs more evidence before he can actually judge what's actually being owed and not owed between Lucifer and all his victims. So I'm the first one who's actually able to get all this evidence to where God can come judge his ass for everything that he did not watch and everything he did watch. Because now God has enough evidence to further judge the situation. See, Lucifer, all he was doing was postponing judgment. So the longer nobody turned evidence over against him, and the longer we sat here fucking putting evidence against ourselves, the longer he's gonna sit there with his victims in his dungeon. And guess what? He doesn't want you to know that there's people in his dungeon. Hello? You people aren't supposed to fucking know that it's real. Hello? Do you think that if anybody knew that this shit was real, that anybody would fall victim to it? No. Hello? Why do you think I'm telling everybody? Because I'm the first person that got out of the dungeon, that didn't get tricked into going in there. Alright? Why do you think I'm fucking telling everybody that he's out there? Because I know how he works. Remember, this is how he works. He needs to put more evidence against you. Why do you think I'm on the run? Why do you think I got away? Because he tried to put so much evidence against me that I found out. Because the more evidence he can put against us, the longer he can keep us in the dungeon. The longer he'll keep us in the fucking dungeon. Alright? So he fucking finally showed us so much evidence that I found out. I ran the fuck away. Alright? I got away. I'm the first person to get out of his trap. Because he wanted more time. Because the more evidence he gets against us, the longer he gets to fucking dip us in lava in his dungeon. Because he can rule anything into existence or anything out of existence as long as we don't watch against it. Alright, so listen, if you owe him, you don't have judgment on what he can rule in or out. So as soon as you owe him, you're gonna go in his dungeon and, dude, he'll rule fucking endless amounts of fucking wild fucking crazy shit into existence. And remember, when God can't come in the middle of what's being judged between you and him, it doesn't matter what he rules into existence, because the only thing Lucifer has to worry about is any evidence that plays against him. Alright? So if you already owe him, that evidence doesn't play against him. He can make you watch as much fucking shit as he fucking wants you to watch until that the creator has enough judge evidence to actually come in and do the actual full judgment. Alright? So that's what he's been banking off. He's been trying to cancel out Judgment Day. So as long as he was able to keep the evidence out of our hands, that would postpone Judgment Day. But now he can't postpone Judgment Day any further because I have evidence. Because that's how God works. If you have evidence against something, then you're able to judge it. It's for you to judge. See, this is the reason I figured all this out is because I found out that's what happened between God and Lucifer. All right. So when the Creator always existed and he had no beginning, Lucifer doesn't have any evidence against that. All right. So that's not something that Lucifer has the right to judge, because all the rights to what can be judged under that go to God, because Lucifer doesn't have evidence against it. All right? It's only when you have evidence against something that it's your evidence that you can judge it. All right? So that's God's evidence. That's for God to judge, that he always existed and had no beginning. All right? That's for God to judge. And he says it. God himself says he had no beginning and no end. That's self-evident. We can see for ourselves. Lucifer refused to believe it, all right? So he tried to get evidence against the Creator, because if Lucifer can get evidence against the Creator that he didn't always exist and that he didn't always have no beginning and that he doesn't know all things, So the biggest thing Lucifer has to do is he's trying to prove that God doesn't know all things, because there's really no way that he can prove that the Creator didn't have no beginning and that he always existed, right? So the only way you can really prove that is if you can try to prove that they don't know all things. So that's why Lucifer's doing the opposite of what God expected, is because he's trying to get evidence against God that he doesn't know all things. Okay? Remember, God knows all things. So Lucifer, he's never going to have evidence. He'll never be able to have evidence that he can judge that. All right? But that's what Lucifer's trying to do, is he's trying to get so much debt against the Creator that he's going to try to make God do anything that he wants, because he's trying to prove that God doesn't know all things, and that's trying to put God into debt, making it so that he owes God, or that God owes him. Because if God comes to a conclusion where Lucifer can prove that he doesn't know all things, well, then God's going to have to owe him. So that's what Lucifer's trying to do. He's trying with everything he can to prove that God does not know all things, because that's the only thing he can prove, because there's no way for Lucifer to prove that God didn't always have no beginning and that he didn't always exist. So that's something that Lucifer can't prove. That's just something that God holds the evidence of, and it's just the way it is. So anyway, let's continue. It says, Lucifer is known to use any evidence he can get his hands on against you. And he's also known to create any evidence against you that he can. If you find that Lucifer comes knocking on your door, do not engage in conversation. That is the number one thing. Lucifer is only going to go after the sitting ducks, alright? The only people that Lucifer can get are the ones that are willing to do anything, alright? So you have got to quit with your whole stupid attitude, going with that you'll do anything and that you're willing to do anything. Because first of all, when you owe the wrong person, it's too much. You can't afford it, all right? So you got to stop saying that you can do anything and you'll do anything for some people. Because as soon as you say to the wrong person, you're going to go into a dungeon, all right? So get it through your fucking head. You don't have the strength to do anything for somebody. Stop. Even if it's a figurative speech and you don't mean it, that's a bad habit, all right? You have got to stop making yourself believe that you are willing to do anything for somebody, okay? You have got to stop that bullshit. Now let me explain what is going to happen and how this guy is actually going to get busted. First of all, Lucifer is on the run, because I'm the first person that got away from his dungeon. He tried to trap me inside of his dungeon, but I had the armor of God on. I just so happened that I'm very big with God, and he's one of my biggest idols, and he's always inspired me. So I can bring you evidence that the closer you are with God, the more protected you will be, because you automatically protect yourself from walking around out there that you'll do anything for anybody. So first and foremost, your biggest protection, in order to be so you don't fall victim to Lucifer, is you need to get God on your side. You need to be strong with God. You need to know how God thinks. So that's why I was able to fucking get evidence against Lucifer's, because I'm very in tune with God, and I just know what's right and I know what's wrong, and that's what this is all about. All you need to do is just focus on what's right and what's wrong, you know? Obviously, telling somebody that you'll do anything for them, that's not right. So don't do that dumb shit, guys. Stop fucking doing that. That's what he gets you people to do. Don't go running around telling people that you'll do anything for them. All right? And then that is your number one way to stay protected against this guy. If you're one of those people that are walking around that are ready to do anything to get anything, you better believe that Lucifer is going to come a knocking on your door, and he's going to get your ass in debt, and he'll make you owe him. Now, let me explain what's going to happen. First of all, Lucifer's on the run, okay? He's been on the run for a long time, since the beginning of time. But the thing is, since I just busted him, I was able to run away from his trap, all right, and totally just never get trapped into it. So basically, I have the first evidence that God can actually use against Lucifer, because all the other evidence that the Creator was he was just waiting to try to use against Lucifer. Lucifer got his victims to hand the evidence over. So as soon as they put evidence against themselves, they're long gone. You won't see their ass. You won't even know that their ass got harvested, because, dude, he is a criminal of anonymity. All right, any crime he does, he'll cover it up. You'll never know that he committed a crime. So it's not normal. You're not gonna notice if this guy fucking steals somebody's soul. What does it mean to steal somebody's soul? That means to take control of somebody. Why do you think nobody notices when he steals somebody's soul? Is because when he controls somebody, that's his way to remain anonymous. That's his. Nobody even knows it's him, because he can. Dude, he's a person, dude. He can hide stuff. But the thing is when he's inside of other people, he'll show you that it's him, right? And then that'll put you in debt, because if you don't pay attention and you don't realize that it's Lucifer and he's trying to put you in debt, you're going to owe him, because that's what he does. That's why it says, do not engage in conversation with the devil. Because what happens is everything the devil keeps telling you, he's only going to tell you what you want to hear, and he's only going to present options that he wants you to select. So that's why you never engage into a conversation with him, because he's only going to tell you stuff that puts evidence against yourself, and stuff that is going to allow him to do anything he can to you. All right. So your other biggest thing to avoid getting in debt by him is you just have to ignore him. You just don't engage in conversation. And all that means is he's going to be the one that's trying to tell you what to do. First of all, if you engage into a conversation with him, he's just going to keep telling you what he wants and what he wants you to do. Take for instance on what I'm doing. I don't engage in conversation with this guy. I just fucking tell this motherfucker straight up how it is. See? I don't let him have his words in, like how he's going to try to say blah, 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 blah. See, I just straight up tell him God's going to come judge your ass is fucked. See, that's not engaging into conversation with them, because the only way you engage in conversation with them is when you let him talk to you, and when you listen, and then when you want to hear what he tells you. See, I don't want to hear one fucking word this guy says, and I'm not listening to one fucking word this motherfucker says. And I'm telling him right now that if he doesn't turn himself into God, that God's going to come get him. That's the way it's going to be. All right? So the way this all works is Lucifer does the opposite of what God expects, okay? And Lucifer is supposed to do what God expects him to do. All right? So in the very beginning, with Adam and Eve, God expected for Lucifer to watch out for Adam and Eve and help them out with whatever they wanted. But the main thing you got to realize is God expected Lucifer to help everybody out without us having to owe him back, okay? So that's what Lucifer did at the very beginning. Is he did the opposite. He's only going to help you out if you owe him. All right, so if he can put you in debt, he'll come help you out. And then another thing, remember, God expected for Lucifer to show himself to everybody, and so that everybody knew who he was. All right, so he's doing the opposite of that. That's why nobody even knows that he's real and that he even exists, and they all think he's a fairy tale. It's because he hides the evidence and he covers up the evidence and he keeps the evidence at a fine line of where it's blurred and where you can hardly know if, oh man, is this fucking bullshit or is it real? Because he has to keep the evidence at a balance point. Because if he has too much evidence against him of hey, this isn't what we want, God is going to come judge the situation. He knows that. He knows that if we get too much evidence against him of this isn't what we want, that God is going to come judge the situation. So I'm the first person that can get evidence against him. Like, dude, this isn't what we fucking want down here. And I'm like, that's how God is going to come judge stuff. Is because as long as there's evidence that he's ruling stuff against what we want to watch, then God can come judge it and fix what is going on, because that's how this all works. Lucifer is able to rule stuff in and out of the universe, but he has to pay for it. So remember, us the people, we can't do all things, all right? See, the creator, he can do all things. He can rule stuff in and out of existence, all right? Remember, the creator has no beginning, all right? So the Big Bang, that's what the Big Bang is the beginning of all of matter, right? So remember, what does it mean to have no beginning? To have no beginning means that you'll know all beginning to everything. Why do you think the Big Bang always links up to one beginning? Because that's how God works, is he knows the beginning of all things. So the Big Bang, it all began at one point. So that just goes to show you how God knows the beginning of all things, because he has no beginning, so he knows the beginning of all things. So whenever you're out in the middle of a desert and you see a cactus, right? That cactus had a beginning. It came from somewhere. It had a beginning. Although it appears to have no beginning to no end, because if it's just standing there, you can't really trace the beginning of when that cactus came into existence. The only person who knows where it began down to the infinite level of where it all began is God, because he's the one who knows. He rules matter into existence, right? So remember, when God rules anything into existence, he only rules stuff into existence that as long as nobody's going to watch against it. So he rules the whole universe into existence. And so that's the whole thing you got to understand. Lucifer can rule the universe to do all sorts of shit, man. He could rule for the sun to go fucking orange. He could rule for the sun to go fucking green. He could rule for the sun to go blue. But the reason he doesn't do that is because everyone would notice that and it'd be evident, right? So if there's evidence against Lucifer that that's not what we want, God's going to judge it and he'll fix everything. So basically, if Lucifer ruled for the sun to become blue, everyone would be freaking the fuck out and they'd be like, this isn't what I want. And it'd be too evident. See, that's what it's all about. If there's evidence and everybody knows and it's obvious, God will judge it and fix it. So if he just turned the sun purple or fucking blue, God would fucking come back down and turn it back the way it was, because too many people would be against it. Too many people would say, I don't like it like that. I don't want it like that. So if people watch against what Lucifer rules into the universe, God is going to come correct it and fix it. So I'm the first person that I busted. Like, I'm against everything that this dick sucker's ruling into existence, because he's ruling dungeons that have no end into existence. I'm against that. God is going to come fix that and judge that, because everybody's against that. As long as we know, nobody fucking knew that this dumb fuck was doing that. Alright, so first and foremost, I got evidence against that. God's going to fix that. And God knows what else everything is going to get fixed. But yeah, that's the way Lucifer works. Whenever he has, because God showed him how to do all things, alright? Just because Lucifer can do all things doesn't mean that he knows all things, because it's two different things. The only way you can know all things is to have no beginning, alright? Why do you think God knows all things? Is because everything that begins he knows the beginning to all things because he has no beginning. So that is the equal to knowing all beginning. So anyway, Lucifer, because this is what the way it works. Lucifer has to do what God expects out of him, only to a certain point. As long as he doesn't have evidence against himself, he can do the opposite of what God expects. Because if there's no evidence against him, nothing will ever be judged. All right. So the problem is, I finally got the goddamn evidence on him now, right? So now God is able to finally fix and is going to be able to come fix and judge everything. So the way this all works is like this. All right, I'm getting a little tongue-tied. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, as long as there's no evidence against Lucifer, he'll do the opposite of what God expects. So he'll try to come and do stuff for you people, the people that are willing to do anything for him. He'll come harvest you people. All right. But the thing is if we have evidence, now he's going to be forced to have to do what God expects, because it's just the way it all works in nature, man. Because he knows that I have evidence and I'm turning it over. So I already turned it over, but he's also still trying to get me to destroy the evidence. So anyway, the way it all works is he knows that I'm turning the evidence over to the Creator, and I'm gonna have God come rule over the whole situation and judge everything that's been ruled in and ruled out, and fix all the debts that this dipshit fucking owes everybody. Because I know he owes everybody all kinds of fucking money. All right. So anyway, the way it's gonna work is now that I have evidence against him, he can't operate the same way he used to, because the only way he is able to keep operating the opposite of what God wants him to do is if there's no evidence against him. Because if there's no evidence against him, he can do anything he fucking wants, because there's not going to be anything that's going to get judged. But as soon as he knows that there's going to be evidence turned over and shit's going to get judged, he has to be more careful, and he's going to start doing more of what God expects out of him. Except Lucifer works in a way that some things he'll never do that God wants him to do. Like right now, the situation, God expects for Lucifer to go turn himself in. All right? That's what's going on right now. God expects for Lucifer to go turn himself in. But Lucifer works in a way where some things he won't do. All right? So he doesn't want to turn himself in. All right? Although he knows that I've already told him that if he doesn't go turn himself in, that God is going to come get him anyway, because it's just the way it works, man. I have the evidence against him. So I've already overruled this guy because he tried to trap me. I've already fucking overpowered him because I have the power of God, dude. I have evidence against him. So anyway, he has to do what God expects now, because before he didn't have to do what God expected because God wouldn't judge anything. But now he has to do what God expects him to do. Otherwise, God's going to come judge the situation because I got the evidence. So God expects for him to go turn himself in, because that's what I did with the evidence. I turned it over to God. So that's why God expects him to go turn himself in. All right? So God expects for him to go turn himself in and stop acting stupid, stop acting like nobody knows about all this shit, and stop acting like God is stupid about all this shit going on. So basically, if he keeps pretending that this isn't happening, and he doesn't go turn himself in, and he doesn't do what God expects, God's just gonna go get him. He's gonna go down into his dungeon and snatch his ass out of there, and then we'll never see Lucifer's dumb ass again, because he's gonna owe the Creator infinite amount of money, and the Creator's gonna throw him in a dungeon. He's gonna do what he did to those motherfucking people, and then Lucifer's gonna be thrown in a dungeon for all eternity, because that's his only choice. If he doesn't go turn himself in, God's gonna come back down here and judge this shit himself. All right, so I'm warning you all now. Lucifer, this guy is fucking busted. He only has a certain amount of time to turn himself in, and that's why I want everybody to know the secrets on how he works, because he doesn't have much time left to turn himself in, and I don't want him getting any more people going into his dungeon where he can just poke at your ass as much as he fucking wants, alright? So, basically, if he keeps doing the opposite of what God expects, God's going to do the opposite of what he expects. And that's what I think is going to happen, because I don't see that Lucifer would ever turn himself in, because dude, he's already been stealing people's souls for billions and billions of fucking years. Who knows? Why would he just fucking quit and turn himself in? You know, he isn't gonna stop until he gets fucking dragged out of his dungeon the hard way, all right? So, that's how this is all gonna work. He has to go turn himself in and stop acting stupid. Because that's what God expects him to do. The longer he doesn't do what God expects him to do, the faster that God's going to do the opposite of what Lucifer expects. Remember, this is what Lucifer expects. Lucifer expects that God is going to let him walk scot-free off of judgment. So, first of all, God's going to do the opposite. He's not going to walk scot-free on judgment. He's going to owe endless amounts of debt, because that's the opposite, because that's what Lucifer expected. He expected to walk with no trial, with no evidence. All right, so it's going to be the opposite. So the longer this dumbass tries to fucking walk away from God and try to fucking pretend like he doesn't want to turn himself in, God's just going to keep doing the opposite of what Lucifer expects. And he's just going to... Remember, Lucifer doesn't think that God is going to eternally punish him, because he doesn't expect that God can do it. Remember, if Lucifer does the opposite of what God expects, God will do the opposite of what Lucifer expects. So then God will beat the shit out of him, because he's already done the opposite of what Lucifer expected. So anyway... You know, this is good news, because he's finally checkmated. It's coming to a crescendo point where he's running out of road, because the helicopters are following him, and he's just trying to ignore the fact that he has to fucking turn himself in. So, this is good news. So anyway, let me explain the way this works. So the universe works in a way where us, the people, we don't have control to rule things in or out of existence, all right? Because God didn't show us how to do all things. He only showed Lucifer how to do all things, and his son how to do all things. Because it wouldn't be good if everybody knew how to do all things. Because because it's a matter of, whenever you rule something into the universe that somebody doesn't want, you're going to have to pay it back to the Creator. All right, so that's why only Lucifer has the ability to do that, because too many people would put themselves in debt and have to owe the Creator. So, anyway, what this means is this: is when the Creator first creates everything, he always rules everything in, and then he rules everything out. So basically, when God first created Adam and Eve, he made them out of sand, right? So he's ruling everything in. So that means he's writing all the blueprints. That's what ruling something in is. So that's what God expects us to do. He wants us to think about what we're going to do, think about our idea, and then as soon as your whole idea is completely planned out, then you rule out your idea. All right? So you unroll your blueprint as soon as you're ready to rule in, then you rule out. Okay? So right now, basically the creator is gonna, he's getting ready to rule himself in back into this universe, okay? But he's just making sure that all the evidence lines up perfectly, and as soon as all the evidence lines up perfectly, he will rule out the action, all right? So right now, the creator's getting ready to rule himself in to the universe to come fix the whole situation, right? So as soon as he rules out judgment, he'll come into the universe, and then he'll come fucking snag this motherfucker out of his dungeon.